Meanwhile, on the outskirts of town, liwei's assistant's father knelt before his son's photograph, incense burning slowly between his fingers as he paid his respects. His eyes never wavered from the image, his voice steady as he stated that his son had died for a good cause, that his spirit was finally at peace, that he had joined those who had given their lives to protect what truly mattered. He bowed deeply, clutching the incense tightly as smoke curled upward, filling the room with a heavy stillness. Silence settled over the space, broken only by the distant sound of crickets and the wind brushing against the walls. Then gunshots shattered the quiet. The sharp cracks echoed through the room as bullets tore through the photograph of his son, ripping it apart. Startled, the old man turned around immediately, only to find Liwei standing there, a gun clutched firmly in his hand, fire blazing unmistakably in his eyes. In that instant, he knew. He knew exactly why Liwei was there. Liwei's footsteps echoed through the room as he walked toward him, passing him before sitting down calmly in front of him. He placed the gun neatly beside him, reached out, and picked up what remained of the photograph, studying it for a brief moment before lifting his gaze back to the old man. His voice was cold as he stated that if he had the chance to kill his son again, he would raise him from the dead just to do it all over again, 1,000 times if necessary, because he did not forgive those who betrayed him, those who lied to him, those who dared to take him for a fool. Leaning in, his eyes boring straight into the old man's, he added that just like everyone else, he too had taken him for a fool, pretending to be righteous, pretending to be a good Samaritan, lying to his face, only for it to be revealed that he was also part of something that had hurt him deeply, something that had traumatized him beyond repair. Standing to his feet, Liwei walked toward him, looming over him as he asked him why. The old man slowly raised his head, his gaze settling on Liwei as he stated that everything had been done to strengthen him, to test him, adding that Liwei might not see it now, but he was standing there confident and powerful, a worthy heir because of it. He told him that instead of viewing it negatively, he should be grateful, because many people could only dream of having what he now possessed. That was when Liwei snapped. He grabbed the old man from the floor, yanking him up forcefully until he stood trembling before him, leaning in as his voice shook with restrained fury. He demanded to know how he was expected to be happy when they had taken his childhood from him, when they had turned him into something he never wanted to become, stripped him of his innocence at such a young age, and took away every choice he ever had. The old man laughed softly at his words, his eyes never leaving Liwei's face as he remarked how amusing it was that history was repeating itself. He revealed that the first time Liwei's father had come to see him, he had said almost the exact same words, spoken with the same anger and pain Liwei carried now. He added that he had given Liwei's father only one answer back then, and as his gaze sharpened, he asked if Liwei wanted to know what that answer was. Liwei simply stared at him, silent, unmoving. The old man leaned in and told him that the answer had been simple, that if he truly didn't want the destiny and fate chosen for him, then he should remove the Li family blood from his veins. Only then, he said, could everything be stopped. Because as long as Li family blood flowed through him, what he was trying so desperately to avoid could never be avoided. He went on to explain that the Li family had been powerful throughout history, from dynasty to dynasty, all the way to the present, and that there would always be people willing to do anything to ensure that such power survived through generations. Trying to stop it, he said, was nothing more than wasted effort. Liwei looked at him, his gaze unwavering, as he told him that he was not his father, that he was different, and that he was going to stop it. He then asked him if he knew why he always wore black whenever he went on a mission. The old man shook his head and Liwei leaned in, telling him that it was because he went out to take a life, to claim a soul, and that when he wore black, he became the Grim Reaper, someone who never returned without claiming a life. He told him that he had worn black that day especially for him. He then gave him two options. He could work with him to dismantle the wretched system they had built, or he could die by his hand that very day and join his son. Leaning in even closer, his voice low and deadly calm, liwei told him that the choice was his. Silence stretched between them as they stared at one another, the air heavy and suffocating, liwei waiting patiently for the old man to decide which fate he would choose. Meanwhile, Kai slowly opened his eyes, white stretching endlessly around him, the brightness almost blinding. He blinked a few times before slowly sitting upright, a low murmur leaving his lips as he wondered where he was. His gaze drifted downward, landing on the drip attached to his hand, realization hitting him all at once that he was in the hospital. Before he could even attempt to stand, Ming rushed in, his voice urgent as he told him to lie back down, reminding him that he was still weak. Kai looked at him, confusion clouding his expression as he asked what had happened. Ming explained that he had collapsed, and that everyone at his workplace was worried about him. Kai fell silent for a moment, his thoughts spiraling backward as everything rushed back to him at once. Liwei. The truth. The moment he discovered that liwei was the one who had killed his father. His expression shifted instantly, darkness settling into his eyes as he looked at Ming and told him that he had to go. Ming tried to stop him, telling him that he couldn't just leave like that, but Kai refused to listen. He reached for the drip, pulling it out of his vein without hesitation as he stood up despite the dizziness threatening to pull him back down. Ming stared at him, worry etched across his face as he asked what was going on, if something had happened. Kai shook his head, telling him that he was fine and that he just needed to find someone and deal with something. With that, he walked out, leaving Ming standing there, unsettled and confused, wondering what could have driven him to act so recklessly. Kai's hands clutched the steering wheel tightly as the engine hummed beneath him. All he wanted was to find liwei and give him a taste of his own medicine. Just thinking about the betrayal made his chest ache, his entire body going numb as rage and grief tangled together. As he drove toward the estate where liwei was staying, something suddenly clicked in his mind. Confronting him wouldn't change anything. Fighting him wouldn't be real payback. He had to take the most precious thing in liwei's life, the one thing he cherished the most, the one thing that would destroy him if it were taken away. Amara. He made a sharp U-turn, driving back toward his own place, his eyes darkening as revenge carved itself deeply into his expression. In that moment, the world around him blurred, everything fading into the background as a single thought consumed him. He wanted liwei to feel the same pain, the same devastation, the same unbearable loss he had been forced to endure. Amara sat in the living room, surrounded by her schoolwork, fully focused. She reached for her cell phone and glanced at it, realizing she hadn't received any call or message from liwei. He usually updated her about his day, always checking in, but today there was nothing. She reasoned that he was probably busy or caught up with work, brushing off the unease creeping into her chest. Kai's mother slowly walked toward her, stopping beside her as she observed her for a moment before asking if she ever took breaks from studying, mentioning that ever since she moved into the house, she was always buried in books. Amara looked up with a smile, explaining that she had made a promise to herself and to her late mother that she would become a doctor, and that she didn't want to break that promise. Kai's mother continued looking at her, admiration shining in her eyes as she complimented her, telling her that she was a good girl, hardworking and disciplined, and that she deserved a man who matched her personality. Someone gentle, less rough, someone who wasn't a gangster. Leaning in slightly, she asked if liwei didn't scare her, remarking that he was frightening, that he never smiled, that he was brutal and ruthless, and that even his eyes alone could make someone run for their life. Amara smiled softly and shook her head, telling her that he didn't scare her at all, that he was actually very sweet once you got to know him on a deeper level, and that beneath everything he was soft and sensitive. Kai's mother's eyes widened in disbelief as she said she couldn't imagine that. She went on to tell her that she deserved someone tender and gentle, someone who was always smiling like her son Kai. Before Amara could respond, the door opened and Kai walked in. He greeted them politely before heading straight to the kitchen, where he prepared chamomile tea. He took out a pill, crushed it carefully, and mixed it into the tea before walking back toward Amara. He told her that she was always studying and that her nerves must be tense, adding that the chamomile tea would help her relax. He placed the cup beside her, telling her she should drink it. Amara smiled up at him, telling him that he was considerate as she reached for the cup. Kai watched her closely, his gaze fixed on every movement, waiting, hoping for her to take a sip. Amara clutched the cup in both hands, hesitation flickering across her face as she stared at the tea. Kai's mother noticed immediately and looked at her, telling her that her son had gone through all that effort to make the tea and that she should drink it. She added that Kai hardly treated any woman the way he treated her, and that she should be grateful for it. Kai glanced at his mother and told her to stop saying such things. He then looked back at Amara, his voice softer, as he told her that if she didn't want to drink it, it was fine. Feeling guilty, Amara immediately lifted the cup and drank the tea, telling him that of course she was going to drink it, and thanking him again for caring about her. Kai forced a smile onto his face, telling her that it was nothing and that she was like a little sister to him. With that, he walked away, heading straight to his room and shutting the door behind him. His heart pounded heavily in his chest as he leaned against the door, a sharp pang of guilt cutting through him. For a brief moment, he wondered if what he had done was wrong, if he shouldn't have done this to Amara at all. But his thoughts drifted to liwei, and instantly his expression hardened. The image of betrayal burned vividly in his mind, rage surging through him as a single desire consumed him. He wanted liwei to feel the same pain, the same destruction. He moved toward the pictures pasted on his closet. Photos of him and liwei together, memories frozen in time. One by one, he tore them apart, his hands shaking violently as tears streamed down his face. His breathing grew heavy, uneven, as he stated that he had loved liwei, worshipped the ground he walked on, jumped whenever he told him to jump, only for him to rip him open in the most brutal way imaginable. His scream tore through the room as he shouted why it had to be him of all people, why he was the one who had to break him like this. Meanwhile, liwei stood before the old man, his gaze fixed on him as he waited for an answer. The old man looked back at him calmly and told him that death didn't scare him, that he had been waiting for it, and that liwei couldn't threaten him with something he had already accepted. His eyes remained steady as he shifted the situation, stating that liwei was the one who had to do something for him instead. Liwei watched him closely, waiting for him to continue. The old man explained that liwei had to spend the night with him and remain there for the rest of the following day, only leaving the next evening. He stated that he was all alone on the farm and missed his son's company, that he hoped liwei would help ease the longing, substitute for his son even if only for a brief moment. In return, he would agree to his request and tell him everything he needed to know. Liwei remained silent, studying him carefully, wondering if the man was playing mind games or planning something else entirely. Finally, he asked why he would agree so easily. The old man laughed softly, explaining that he simply wanted to see whether liwei was truly capable of taking down a system that had existed for centuries. He found his resilience intriguing, calling it a fascinating match to watch unfold. He added that perhaps he even had a soft spot for him, before leaning in and asking again whether he was willing to do it or not. Liwei leaned closer, warning him that if he tried anything or went back on his word, he would show him exactly what he was made of. The old man nodded, reminding him that Liwei also had to keep his word, stay the night, and only leave the following evening, otherwise the deal would be broken. Liwei extended his hand, stating that it was a deal. The old man grasped it firmly, sealing their agreement. Amara sat at the study table, focused on her books, when suddenly her vision began to haze and blur. Heat spread through her body, an unfamiliar sensation creeping in as she tried to ignore it at first. The feeling only intensified. She stood up abruptly as her body weakened, her skin burning, her vision swimming. She decided to head to her room, thinking that resting might help. Leaning against the wall for support, she struggled to make her way down the corridor. That was when she came across Kai. He immediately rushed to her side, asking if she was feeling okay. Amara looked at him, his face blurred in her vision, as she told him that her body felt hot. Kai moved closer, telling her that he would take her to her room and that she should lean on him. Amara nodded, allowing it. As he walked her toward her room, supporting her weight, Kai knew in that very instant that his plan was working, unfolding exactly the way he had intended. Liwei stood in the room the old man had given him to sleep in, his gaze fixed on the photograph of his father hanging on the wall. Slowly, his fingers traced over the frame, lingering there as he spoke to him, telling him to hold on, that he was close now, very close to avenging him, his mother, and his little sister. He stated that he would make sure the people behind their deaths paid dearly, that he would put an end to the madness once and for all. He admitted that he never knew things were this big, this deep, far more tangled than he had imagined, and that his father must have suffered in silence, enduring everything just to protect his family, only to be killed in the end. He promised that he would not stop until his soul finally rested in peace. Most of all, he confessed that he wanted to be with the woman he loved, that ever since meeting her they had always been forced to fight for their love, always looking over their shoulders, and all he wanted was to love her freely and stay by her side without fear. His hand drifted to the locket around his neck, clutching it tightly as thoughts of her filled his mind. He thought about how much he wanted to make her happy, give her the life she never had as a child, be the best husband to her, and the best father to their future children. He reached for his cell phone, only then realizing that he hadn't called or texted her the entire day. Panic stirred in his chest as he immediately dialed her number. The phone rang endlessly with no answer. Worry crept deeper as he sent her messages, one after another, yet still there was no response. He tried calling again, only for the call to go straight to voicemail. His chest tightened as he dialed Kai's number, only to find his phone switched off as well. He stood there frozen, unease settling heavily over him, knowing how rare it was for Amara not to answer him, not to respond at all. Meanwhile, Kai guided Amara into her room, his hand steady as he told her she should lie down. Amara's body felt weak as she looked at him, unable to understand the overwhelming sensations surging through her. All she knew was that her body burned, that it longed for Liwei, that all she wanted was for him to be there, to hold her, touch her, kiss her. Kai called out to her, asking if she was okay. Amara slowly lifted her gaze to him, but all she could see was Liwei standing before her, his voice, his eyes, his lips, his presence consuming her vision. She stepped closer, her hand lifting to touch Kai's face as she called him Liwei, telling him that she missed him. Kai watched her quietly, a faint smile tugging at his lips as he told her that he was there, that he was Liwei. Amara leaned in, her body no longer responding to her will. She tried to fight it, tried to regain control, but the haze thickened, something else taking over her completely. She moved closer, inch by inch, her breath shallow. Kai's heart pounded violently in his chest as he watched her. Normally, when women got close to him, panic would set in immediately, his body rejecting the proximity. This time was different. This time, he felt himself wanting to lean in too. Amara's eyes slowly closed as she leaned forward for a kiss. Kai closed his eyes as well, leaning in to meet her halfway. He pulled her closer and kissed her, carefully, gently, making sure his lips moved against hers as softly and passionately as possible. As the kiss deepened, his eyes opened, drifting toward the hidden camera embedded in the frame on the wall, making sure it captured everything. On the other side of the screen, Liwei sat rigid, his fingers clutched tightly around his phone, so tight it felt like it might shatter in his hand. The hidden camera he had placed in Amara's room for her safety, the one he told himself he would only check it when he sensed she was in danger, streamed live footage before his eyes. His entire body stiffened as he watched his woman kissing another man. His cousin, the man he had considered his brother. The man who was now taking what was his, betraying him in the most devastating and unforgivable way. Liwei sat frozen, his body locked in place as though his soul had momentarily left him, his eyes burning with a fury so intense it scorched through his chest. Before him was something that belonged to him being touched, claimed by hands that were not his. Lips pressed against lips he was supposed to be the only one ever kissing, a body he was supposed to be the only one touching. His vision narrowed, the world collapsing inward until nothing existed beyond that image, beyond the betrayal carved into his sight. His breath came shallow, his heart pounding violently against his ribs, and without thinking, without reason, restraint, or hesitation, his mind surrendered to one consuming instinct. Get to Kai, show him what happens to people who touch his woman. He rose abruptly, the bed scraping loudly against the floor, and bolted toward the door, his steps heavy and urgent as he rushed outside and headed straight for his car. In that moment, nothing else mattered. Not consequences, not promises, not blood ties. He needed to get to his woman. He needed to make Kai pay. As he reached the car, the old man noticed him and hurried after him, his voice calling out that he had been about to ask him outside so they could share the warm wine he had prepared together. Liwei did not slow down. He did not look back. He moved past him as if he were invisible, his hand already reaching for the car door. Before he could get in, the old man stopped him again, demanding to know what was going on, asking why he was suddenly in such a rush. Liwei finally turned. His eyes were no longer the eyes of a man, but something darker, something stripped of mercy, his voice glacial as he told him that he was going to kill his cousin. He got into the car and shut the door. The old man stood there, his voice sharp with urgency as he told him that he was going against their agreement, that leaving now could break what they had promised each other, that he might never get another chance like this. Liwei looked at him through the window and told him that deep down he knew he was a good man, that if he weren't, he would never have saved Amara back then. He added that the photograph of his father hanging on his bedroom wall was proof enough of the bond they shared, proof that he was capable of love, and that he knew, without a doubt, that he would still help him. The engine roared to life. The old man stepped closer, his voice softer now as he asked what had really happened, and Liwei told him that he had to go and get his woman. The old man's shoulders sagged as he told him that he was repeating the same mistake his father had made, letting himself be bewitched by a woman, willing to sacrifice everything that mattered for her. Liwei laughed quietly, a sound hollow and unrestrained as he told him that without her he had no life, that without her he was nothing, that she was the air he breathed. Of course he would worship the ground she walked on. Of course she would always come first. With that, he drove off, the engine humming fiercely as the car disappeared into the dark night, cutting through the road toward the city. Liwei gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles turning white, his jaw clenched as his mind spiraled out of control. The image of Kai's lips on Amara's lips replayed again and again, each time carving deeper into his chest, driving him closer to the edge. He grabbed his cell phone to check the CCTV feed again, only to realize it had been disconnected. His chest rose and fell violently as questions flooded his mind. What they were doing now. What came after the kiss. Why the camera was off. He called Amara. The phone rang endlessly, unanswered. He called Kai. His phone was switched off. Something inside him snapped. Madness took hold, and before he realized it, the speedometer climbed higher and higher as he pressed down on the accelerator, the road blurring beneath him. At that moment, nothing else existed. No rules, no consequences, no morality. All he knew was this. He would burn down the entire world, reduce the earth to ashes if anyone dared lay their hands on her. And right then, he was ready. Ready to burn it all for her, because she was his everything. Meanwhile, back in the city, Kai held Amara in his arms as her body trembled violently against his chest. Every breath she took uneven, fractured, as though her body had betrayed her and no longer belonged to her. The room felt too small, the air too thick, her senses blurred and distorted, heat coiling through her veins in a way she could not understand. Her fingers brushed the dresser blindly until they closed around the hairpin. She clenched it hard, driving the sharp edge into her palm, welcoming the pain as it bloomed through her skin, grounding her, anchoring her to reality. The sting pulled a broken gasp from her lips, and with it came a fleeting moment of clarity. She pushed Kai away. Her body swayed dangerously as she stumbled back, dizziness washing over her, her legs barely holding her upright. Her voice came out thin, fragile, telling him she needed to be alone, that he had to leave. Kai instinctively stepped forward, his hand lifting as if to steady her, but she flinched back, her voice dropping to a whisper as she told him to stay away, that she wanted to be alone. For a moment, Kai simply stared at her. Then he nodded slowly, telling her that if she needed anything, anything at all, she should call him. And with that, he turned and left. Amara sank onto the edge of the bed, her breathing heavy, her chest heaving as she tried to understand what was happening to her body, to make sense of the heat, the weakness, the loss of control. She squeezed the hairpin tighter in her palm, grounding herself again and again, alone in the quiet aftermath. Outside her room, Kai came to an abrupt stop in the corridor. His heart pounded violently, his thoughts colliding, spiraling out of control. Guilt crept in slowly, insidiously. The memory of kissing her without consent, of slipping the aphrodisiac into her tea, curling like a sick knot in his chest. But then liwei's face flashed through his mind. The betrayal, the lies, the pain liwei had inflicted on him. And suddenly the guilt hardened into justification. What he had done to Amara, he told himself, was nothing compared to what liwei had done to him. His mother appeared down the corridor, rushing toward him, her voice thick with concern as she asked if he was all right, telling him she had just come from his room and hadn't found him there. She leaned closer, lowering her voice, asking if he had been in Amara's room, asking what had happened. Kai looked at her, his expression unreadable, and told her quietly that he needed to be alone. Then he walked past her without another word, leaving her standing there, confusion and unease settling deep into her bones. At the entrance, Kai collided with Fang. Fang reached out, trying to stop him, saying he needed to talk to him, that there was something important he had to say. Kai shoved past him without slowing, without even looking at him, his focus singular as he headed straight for his car. The engine roared to life, and he drove off immediately. Fang stood there, stunned, watching the car disappear into the night. He muttered to himself that it was the first time he had ever seen Kai that angry, that unrestrained, a dangerous edge to him he had never witnessed before. Unable to piece together what had happened, Fang eventually turned back into the house, deciding it was better not to get involved. Elsewhere, Ming entered the room where Momo lay resting. She lifted her head, surprised, asking why he had come back from work so early. Ming moved closer, telling her it was because he wanted to be with her, to make sure she was okay, especially now that his parents had decided to travel and give them space. Momo smiled, reassured him that she was fine, and called him over. He hesitated, then sat beside her. When she pulled back the covers, revealing herself half-naked, Ming immediately turned away, his ears burning, his voice low as he asked if he should bring her something to wear. She laughed softly, telling him she was fine, that she felt hot anyway. Ming kept his gaze fixed elsewhere, rigid, as though even the slightest movement might push him past a line he wasn't ready to cross. Momo shifted closer, telling him gently that, despite dating, they had never truly spent time together like this, never held each other properly. She asked if he wouldn't mind sleeping in the same room, just cuddling. Ming froze. Panic laced his voice as he told her it wasn't the right time, that it was inappropriate. Disappointment flickered across her face as she reminded him they were a couple, that closeness was inevitable. Still refusing to look at her, he insisted it was better not to, then fled the room, retreating to his own, cheeks flushed, breath uneven, desire and restraint warring violently within him. Meanwhile, Fang sat with his mother, explaining his suspicions about Liwei, about the crimes he believed could land him in prison. He told her Yan was the key, the one who could provide the evidence he needed, if only he could reach her. His mother's patience snapped. She scolded him sharply, reminding him that the blind date had been arranged for marriage, not for him to continue provoking Liwei. She warned him that Liwei was not someone he could simply challenge, especially now that his grandfather stood firmly behind him. Her voice softened as she told him to stop obsessing, that continuing down this path would only lead to his destruction. Fang clenched his jaw and declared stubbornly that he would prove Liwei was a criminal, no matter what it took. The door burst open sharply. The sound echoed through the house like a gunshot. Liwei stood there, his eyes burning with unrestrained fury, his presence instantly suffocating the room. Fang froze, his blood running cold as dread seized his chest. In that moment he was certain of one thing. Liwei had heard everything,